touch upon. Obviously, perhaps as much as any other profession, you feel the economy before anyone does. And with all this talk about how do we get our economy back and how do we get homes moving again, and people selling businesses and properties again, it all links back to jobs. You can't pay your mortgage, you can't buy a house if you don't have a job, you can't make your monthly payments if you don't have a job, and you can't build commercial enterprises and rent them out unless people are willing to go into business. It's all about economic growth. Unfortunately, our economy is not growing fast enough. And so what we're really debating up here, in my opinion, not doing enough about, is determining what's the role of government and ensuring that the economy grows again. Now, the good news about Florida is we have a significant amount of foreign investment. We have people that come to Florida from all over the world, and especially from Latin America, and bring their money to our state and use that to buy real estate. It's very positive. If any of you are in South Florida or Central Florida, I'm sure you've done some, or have seen the Brazilians or the Venezuelans that come and buy houses cash. So that's a pretty big deal. And we've seen some of that we benefit from. I think that's one of the reasons why we're so interested in some of these visas and some of these visa programs that are being debated now that we hope we can make some changes to, particularly with Chinese and Brazilian investors who desperately, particularly the ones from Brazil, but also from Venezuela, want to buy real estate or want to buy property in Florida as an investment and a hedge against uncertainty in their own countries. And in the case of Brazil, really it's just because they enjoy being in Florida and we enjoy selling things to them, including houses and apartments and businesses. The second aspect of it is generally how do you grow the economy. There's just a lot of uncertainty about the economy right now. In order for an economy to grow, there's only two ways that an economy can grow. People have to open new businesses and people have to grow existing businesses. But to do that, they have to feel some level of security about what tomorrow is going to bring. And a lot of the reasons why they don't have that security about what tomorrow is going to bring is because they look at the debt and the deficit in Washington. They look at all these taxes that are set to expire at the end of this year. They look at all these things and they worry, and in addition to the fact that the political process is broken, and they worry about what next year is going to look like. And when people are worried about the future, they don't take risk. In essence, they don't take the money out of the bank and use that to buy a new home. They don't take the money out of the bank and use that to start a new business. They don't use that. They don't take money out of the bank and use it to grow an existing business. And so we're facing those issues as well. And then there's regulatory issues. One of the things that I'm really worried about is the loss of community banking. More and more of all the lending in this country is being made by a handful of large institutions. And one of the reasons for that is because the more regulations you force on these banks, and listen, I've had my own problems with banks in the past. I'm not saying banks shouldn't have regulations, they should. But we also have to understand that the more you create regulations, the harder it is for a small and mid-sized lender to stay in business. Because they can't afford all the lawyers and accountants that it takes to deal with that. And so what you end up having is these banks have to sell. They have to sell to bigger banks. And so before you know it, we only have a handful of lenders left. So that's why I've been a supporter of credit unions, why I've been a supporter of small community banks, because in so many ways, when Florida was growing, particularly in the real estate front, a lot of the lending, a lot of the capital came from the small community banks that invested back into their communities, as opposed to being sucked into these large banks that ended up losing $2 billion because somebody made a bad decision one day last week. So I have nothing against big banks. They have their role in our economy as well. But we have to protect community banking. We have to protect the smaller lending institutions because without them, a lot of the business deals that you used to do are not possible. They're just not. Especially small community banks whose mission is to provide for home ownership and entrepreneurship at the local level. So we have to ensure that that comes back as well. So I think these are all issues that you're probably interested in and care deeply about moving forward. But I think the most important thing that we can do for realtors is ensure that our economy is growing again. Because when it is, people have the confidence in investing in the future. From a buyer's perspective, this market's a pretty good one. If you